Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back of another installment of the March and Silva MMA show. And we've got such a great one to speak about today. Obviously, UFC London being the top of the bill, shall we say. And obviously, we get to speak about what happened last weekend. UFC Vegas 77 went down. Heading into it, it was a bit of the card wasn't stacked. Um, yeah, and that's probably the best way of putting it. The prelims were, kind of so lackluster a little bit, but the main card was fire. We had some really good fights. Obviously, there were some good fights on the prelims. Evan Elder versus Valdez had a great fight, but yes, the card all round wasn't great, and now we look forward to talking about a great card. I can't wait with none other than my co-host Oscar Silva. How's it going over there?
It's going good, feeling better every day. And we had a really solid card this past Saturday. A lot of people weren't all that hyped for the main event, but it really ended in very exciting fashion with Mario Bueno Silva defeating Holly Holm via second round submission via standing ninja choke. That was very unexpected because we've seen Mario Bueno Silva fight in ways that aren't very smart before against Manon Farrell, who was very similar to Holly Holm, was looking to just outpoint her from distance, and Holly Holm kept on going to the clinch, and she got too close for comfort because Maribona Silva is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. She submitted several women in two weight classes now, and now she's four in a row, and she did to Holly Holm, who's only been finished in her title defense against Misha Tate back in 2016. So that was one of the best submissions I've seen all year. Don't you agree?
Absolutely agree. And I saw what you put on your story the other day, saying how how you wrote off Bueno Silva, and I completely agree. I just thought she wouldn't have enough tools in this fight. I just thought Holly Holm would stick at range, outpoint her, use her speed, her technicality, and just outstrike her. But it just seemed that what we saw, as you talked about, Holly Holm wanting to clinch, and ultimately she snapped up that ninja choke so quick. You can't play games with these Brazilian black belts. They are ridiculously quick.
Yeah, she got it so quick, man. Holly Holm, she almost got submitted against Ketlin Beer in her last fight, and she was able to fight out of that. So when Maribona Silva got the choke, I thought Holly Holm was going to find some way up, but she was unable to. And Maribona Silva, I truly believe she's improved since that loss to Manafiro. Now she's on a four-fight win streak. She finds herself ranked number three in the women's bantamweight division, which currently does not have a champion or a title fight booked. She could slide right in there for a title fight, but I do think the UFC is gonna give Juliana Pena a spot in that title fight against Raquel Pennington, was the who was the who was the replacement. If Nunez or Aldana had pulled out, she would have been the backup. So they're probably gonna do Pennington versus Juliana Pena, but if not, Bueno Silva can slide right in there. So we also have Ketlin Vieira versus Penny Kianzad on the card this Saturday. So I think most likely Bueno Silva versus the winner of that will happen.
Yeah, completely agree. Interesting for the landscape of bantamweight right now, just because obviously Amanda Nunes retiring on top. I'm looking forward to it. Look, I feel like this is what the kind of the division needed. Obviously, it's sad to see a great like Amanda Nunes go out, but she went out on top. She went out on her terms, defending champion, beating some of the greatest names in the world. But now the division is wide open again, and just like what we've seen in recent years with the light heavyweight championship, that's cursed. It's been bouncing around, but we're seeing so many people come out, and so many stories have been told since John Jones had to give it up. Jerry Prochazka, Jamal Hill. So I like this time. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to see what happens. And obviously, Silva probably ranked number 3 now.
Yeah, she is. I just saw the updated rankings. She's in a very good spot. I feel like this was somewhat of a star-making performance for her. Holly Holm is a very big name, a future Hall of Famer. So yeah, it's definitely a good win for her moving forward. Holly Holm, do you think she should retire off of this loss? Because now she's got an 8-7 record in the UFC, and it doesn't appear to me that she'll be in a title fight anytime soon. Now that she's 41.
See, I'm still happy for to keep her around. I think she's a great asset to the division. Been around for several years, been at the top level, fought for the belt, defended, but or tried attempted to defend the belt. Been at the bigger stages. I think if we have these people that are coming up, Holly Holm is a fantastic um, opposition to just matchmake them with. Similar to like Uriah Hall or Andrei Arlovski, I think she could play that role really well because she has that quality of beating some of the best prospects as well.
Might be time to do that Misha Tate rematch.
That would make a lot of sense. But I've seen Misha Tate. I don't want to call it arrogance, but she seems to think that she deserves the title shot if she gets one more win. That I'm not necessarily agreeing with.
Yeah, that's absolutely ludicrous. She could not beat Lauren Murphy, and she could not beat Ketlin Vieira. I think that's pretty ludicrous. I say we move on to the co-main event, which ended up being the fight of the night. Jack Della Maddalena defeating Basel Hafez by split decision. I was absolutely shocked when I heard that one of the judges scored the fight in favor of Basel Hafez, who was at a serious disadvantage on the feet. He was getting touched up whenever they were standing. Jack Della Maddalena outstruck him in every single round, including the first round, which was a very competitive round, but ultimately Basel Hafez was able to just get these explosive takedowns on Jack Della Maddalena, overwhelm him, get the control time going. Jack Della Maddalena kept on attempting these guillotines, and I hope he doesn't do that again because there's some much more dangerous grapplers in this division that would make him pay and probably submit him, including Sean Brady, who was going to be his opponent at UFC 290 last Saturday. So I think there's definitely some stuff to be worked on for Jack Della Maddalena, but ultimately this was not that bad a performance as some people are making it seem. He was really landing huge shots on Basel, but the thing with Basel, the guy has a really good chin and zero quit. Most guys would have folded taking those body shots from Jack. Um, but Jack, even when he was having success on the feet, uh, Brazil was relentless with the takedowns, even when he was gassed. So for me, round two and round three were very clear rounds for Jack Del Mondelin. He did more damage on the feet, nearly got a finish, especially in round three. You could have scored that 8-10-8. So very entertaining fight. I cannot wait to see Basel Hafez's next fight. I really underrated him. This guy's going to be a problem for many guys.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Shout out to Moyes Audio. Absolutely a legend in the chat. Been around for a very long time. Did some great stuff on Twitter over there. Make sure you check him out. Thank you very much. I appreciate taking time watching us. An absolute legend. But yeah, I completely agree. JDM got the job done. On this day, probably got away with one. It was a tough call. In my eyes, I thought it was closer. But as you talked about, when Hazez got him down to the floor or to the ground, sorry, he wasn't really doing much, and that ultimately probably cost him it did cost him the fight. If he did more damage, worked more harder in them exchanges, who knows? We could talk about that upset. But if I'm Brazil, I'm leave. Well, he probably is. I'm leaving my head held up high. Takes this fight on 5 days' notice. Has to cut weight. He misses weight and makes weight. This going through a lot of stuff in this week. Accepted a fight against one of the best prospects that we have in 170 right now, and goes out there and somewhat does a job, and makes it really competitive and gives JDM a lot to work on and maybe a lot to think about because moving forward, when he comes up against this Sean Brady, I feel like they're going to kind of school him a little bit in that grappling department. If there is a wrestler, a grappler that is more active whilst wrestling in them exchanges, I just feel like we're going to see JDM not maybe exposed, but not knowing what to do. There was a few times, if I believe, JDM got mounted. That can't happen against Sean Brady, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. Sean Brady is known as one of the physically strongest guys in the division, and of course, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. That would have been a bad position for JDM to be in. So I don't know if JDM should honestly pursue that fight like he's doing right now because it was not looking good for him in some spots. I say we move on to the next fight. Francisco Prado knocking out Otman Azatar in round one with a spinning elbow and then ground and pound. I thought this was going to be the other way around. Otman Azatar getting the knockout here, but Francisco Prado is young and dangerous, man. He's about my age, only born a couple months before me, and he looks really seasoned up for his age. He knocked out Amin Zatar. Amin Zatar is kill or be killed in there, so I always would like to see that guy fight. And Francisco Prado, he's got some serious power. Um, yeah, pretty fun knockout there. You got the performance of the night. What did you make of the spinning back elbow?
Yeah, you talked about Prado being a couple months older than you. I'm actually older than Prado. So that makes me feel worthless and absolute like a piece of shit. No, I'm joking. Credit to him, absolute legend. Stepping in there at 21 years old. It's ridiculous. And I completely agree. Otman Azatar, I thought he was going to go out there. He's showed some absolute rock solid hands in recent years. But I just think them years are completely gone. I'm not too sure what has happened from now and that Tumi Pacquiao absolutely starching him. I just don't know what's happened. And maybe he's lost his mojo. Maybe them years away completely stopped the momentum, stopped the rhythm. Losing to Matt Frivola, which I thought, in fairness, that Matt Frivola's gone on to do some great things in division. I said, all right, fair enough. It's Matt Frivola. He's an absolute G. But this one, I think this one's a tough one to take. I feel like Otman Azatar should have went out there and beat him, but he didn't. I'm not too sure what's up with him. I know a few years ago, we were saying this guy could go on to reach top 10, reach top 15, but I just feel like that time away, COVID season, it did not treat him so good.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of inactivity I think is definitely a big issue. Also, the guy's actually very wealthy. He's not all that motivated compared to some other guys who are coming from the trenches. But either way, I really have to credit the young guy, Francisco Prado from Argentina. We'll move on to Jung Young Park's second round rear naked choke submission over Albert Duraev. Who'd have thought that the Korean would be having the grappling success over the Russian here, and on the feet, man, he was piecing up Duraev. I think Duraev may have been overhyped coming out of the Contender Series. I don't think he's as good as his as his appearance suggests. You see the guy, he's got the typical Russian look. He's got a good record, but I don't think he was finding the best of competition outside of the UFC. Jenga Park, on the other hand, he's won 8 of his last 9. Man, the guy is very proven in the UFC, and I think you could give him rank guy next if you want to, but he's not picky. He'll fight absolutely anybody, and that's what I like about him. He's put on multiple entertaining fights now, and he's shown that if you can't hang with him on the ground, he'll finish you.
Absolutely. Junior Park showing an absolute revelation. He's been on an absolute tear as of late. It's been really good to watch him. He's very entertaining. Walks forward, throws his bombs, throws his straights, and just kind of he doesn't really care what's coming back at him. He has three rare naked chokes in a row. That's pretty phenomenal stuff. His only loss to date was against RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez. So that's we can't really take too much away from the great Robocop. There's some great things as well. Other than his loss in his last last outing, but other than that, that's a good run for him. I'd like to see Junior Park not maybe necessarily get a step up, I thought Albert Daraev was a step up, and he handled him very well. But another one. I don't know who's out there in that 185-pound division, but I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah, you could throw him in there with pretty much anybody. I'd say why not Bo Nickel.
That would be good. I saw Alex. I don't know how to say his second name, but on Twitter, Alex B. Bohemin or something like that. But yeah, he suggested that matchup, and it would work well. That's a good step up for Bo. Junior Park, durable, got some some really good skills. So that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I like that one. We'll move on to 145 pounds, women's 145 pounds. Norma Dumont getting the decision win versus Chelsea Chandler. This one was memed all over Twitter, all over Instagram for that clip of Chelsea Chandler running away into the cage. No idea what's
Yeah,
going through her head at
this
that moment, but she turns around and runs straight into the cage. It was one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in MMA. Period. It was good.
this was the highlight of the night for me, man. I can't stop laughing about it. DC was unable to remain professional on the broadcast. He was losing it. Um, yeah, Chelsea Chandler is evidence of the fact that this division is not very deep. I believe this is only her sixth pro fight, and it showed here. She did not react well to getting hit. I've never seen something exactly like that. We've seen s- stuff similar to that, like CJ Vergara versus Daniel Lacerda earlier this year. But this was straight up just running for the cage. It was hilarious. Norma Dumont showed that she should have been a bigger favorite here. She had the edge everywhere. Some people thought if it went to the ground, Chelsea Chandler's jiu-jitsu might be a problem for Norma. It was not. Norma was able to win the fight however she wanted, and she did. She got takedowns after having success down the feet. She won a clear unanimous decision. Norma Dumont, somehow she's ranked in the bantamweight division, but I got a feeling that she probably should go to Bellator PFL next, because the UFC. I don't think she can make that bantamweight limit. And in PFL and Bellator, there's some good matchups for her out there. I think she could maybe even be in the top over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. If you look at over 145 pounds in PFL, ultimately there's only one name, and that's Larisha Pacheco. Which I feel like she would have a competitive fight with. That would be good. I completely agree. Not knowing the the future of PFL and Bellator, because there is a big talk at the moment. Obviously, PFL interested in buying Bellator. It's a weird scenario right now what we're living in this MMA world. So we'll see what happens in the near future. Hopefully, something comes out very soon. Also, a big Bellator or former Bellator fighter has recently come out as a free agent. Michael Venom Page MVP. That would be a huge pickup for the UFC. They need to go out of their way to make this happen. Think about the matchups that they could do with MVP versus Wonderboy, MVP versus Michelle Piera. Oh my goodness! Oh, just thinking
Yeah,
about it.
I got a feeling that wherever he ends up, he's gonna make a big splash. But I definitely don't think he's ending up in bare knuckle because Mike Perry put a beating on him.
Yeah, I think he'll stay in MMA and hopefully come to the UFC. A lot of good matchups there for him, and I feel like he wants to probably tick that one off his list as well. He's been in Bellator for 10 years now, long career. We'll move on. Nassim Zadidov beats Terence McKenney. Terence McKenney, you talked about that or kill or be killed mentality early on. That's exactly what Terence McKenney goes by. If he doesn't get the finish in first round, he gets finished, and ultimately the second round he gets finished. The first round he was controlling, using his grappling, but the second round ultimately we saw him get a little bit tired, a little bit lackluster, and he made a mistake and he paid for it. Terence McKenney, I'm not too sure what's going on. Maybe it's a lack of confidence, but I just don't see that urgency that we did see when he made his debut, when he was knocking out Matt Favola and etc. What are your thoughts? What do you think of this fight? What did Terrence McKenny do wrong? Yeah, etc.
Yeah, Terrence McKinney had a really good round one. He was able to get the body triangle, but it kind of looked like to me that he did not like the pressure and power from Nazim Sadikov. It looked like he was looking to win with his grappling in this one, and when he was unable to get a rear naked.
Oh, I think we have lost Oscar. But yes, he's talking about the fight. Two losses back to back now for Terrence McKenny. Ishmael Bonfim, obviously that flying Lee, sent all over around the world on Instagram, Twitter, loads of views. Nassim Saniov as well, getting the rear naked choke in round two. But as Oscar was going to say, Terrence McKenny had a fantastic round one, body lock, and he was just really controlling him. But the second round, I'm not too sure what happened. He came down and obviously Nazim trapped the arm of Terrence McKenny and eventually got that rear naked choke. Um, Awkward situation, I would say, for Terrence McKenny. And here's Oscar back to continue his talk.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, far away, keep going.
Nazim Sadikov was able to get that rear naked choke. Once Terrence McKinney's arm got trapped behind him, and yeah, for me, Terrence McKinney may not be as good as I once thought he was. It kind of looks to me that when things aren't going his way, he'll fold, and that's not something I look for in a future contender. He's still young, but I don't know, man. There's it just appears to me that he's not super durable, and he's a little too wild to really be an elite fighter, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. He's entertaining though. He's good on Twitter and stuff like that. So I hope the UFC keep him around for at least one more. Which I think they will. They get a lot about Terrence McKenny. He's exciting with the right matchups. He'll get wins. But yeah, as you talked about, maybe the ceiling for Terrence McKenny was over exaggerated. When we first saw him. But yeah, I'd like to see what happens for Terrence McKenny and obviously Nazim. It's a good win for Nazim, but stuff to work on. Obviously, getting controlled and stuff like that. But he got the job done. He got the rear naked choke. It was fantastic. Moving on, Melsik Basudarian getting the decision win over Tucker Lance. This one was a few of the good fights in the prelims. This one really delivered.
Yeah, I really love this fight. We had uh, we had the pure striker Melsik Baghdasaryan constantly trying to defend the takedowns from Tucker Lutz. He still did get taken down 3 times. He admitted he underestimated Tucker Lutz, didn't do any tape study on him, but he still got the job done ultimately, as I predicted. I just think Tucker Lutz just doesn't offer any high level skill that's going to give specialists like Melsik Baghdasaryan too much trouble. So for Melsik Baghdasaryan, I honestly think that UFC because he admitted that he's still a developing fighter, and yeah, he showed earlier this year against Josh Kulbau that submission defense isn't all that great, and his cardio isn't all that high level, man. So I think Melsik maybe got to the UFC a bit early there, but still fun fighter to watch. We'll move on to the next one. Gruesome Estela Nunez in 34 seconds. She attempts to take down Estela Nunez, falls back on her arm and dislocates it. It was really bad to watch and tough to see Nunez in so much pain.
Yeah, distressing scenes at the end. It was good. Hearing them screams. It was not good. It was not pretty. Wishing all the best and a speedy recovery for Estela Nunez. Bittersweet because I was looking excited to see how Victoria gets on in her debut 7-0 or 6-0 heading into this one. Now she's 7-0. I was interested to see how she gets on. Obviously coming into her debut, undefeated and stuff like that. You always get excited about a prospect. But yeah, bittersweet. Maybe she gets rebooked soon to kind of make up for it. That would make sense. But yeah, we'll see what happens when she comes back. Obviously, unfortunate scenes. All the best to Estela Nunez. That's all we can really pretty much say on this one. It happened so quick in the 34 seconds in the first round. So not much to talk about. Move on to Costa vs. Lingo. This one as well. This one really was a decent fight. We'll talk about the first fights really quickly because obviously we've got UFC London to talk about, and I don't want to keep them for too long. We're almost going on 30 minutes, so the next 5 minutes we'll talk about quickly about the first fights. Aline Perez getting the decision victory at Ashley Evans Smith. Bit of a gritty one for Aline, getting the job done, and obviously the post-fight speech making Fabiano Brzezinski awkward. Making obviously mean potential as well. Alex Muniz getting the job done versus Carl Durton. His first win inside the UFC. That's good to see that one. And Asmat Maxam, that it was a split decision, 17-0. This one was a wild back and forth. And so was Evan Amder versus Valdez. Fantastic fight. And then Costa versus Lingo. Costa getting the job done. Oscar, first 5 fights. What did you make of them?
I thought the first 5 fights were up and down. We had Aline Perez breaking the takedown record against Ashley Evans Smith, who looks like her head is not in the game whatsoever. Munoz beat Carl Deaton, and I think Munoz is better than his UFC record shows. He's got a good overall game. The wrestling is really going to give some guys some problems coming out of Team FML. And I thought Tyson got robbed against Azat Maxim. I thought he landed the bigger shots, the shots that mattered. Maxim, I think this was by far the toughest fight of his career. He had that good-looking 16-0 record. I don't think he's as good as his record suggests. And Evan Elder versus Genaro Valdez, this was awesome, man. I really wish this was in front of a crowd. Valdez is as tough as nails. I thought he was going to get finished after he got dropped by that jab to start off round 2, but the guy's stuck in there. He's had awards with Matt Frivola as well as his fight on the Contender Series, which was an absolute banger. I'll watch that guy fight any day of the week. And Mel Costa versus Austin Lingo, that was a one-sided beating. Costa has a really awesome kicking game, excellent cardio. I cannot wait to see what he does in this division moving forward.
Absolutely agree.
UFC Vegas 77 stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much a wrap of UFC Vegas 77. Overall, the card wasn't great. 5 decisions in a row to start off the card. It's always hard for an Englishman or the European fans to try and stay up to watch them. But yeah, the main card picked up and we were, kind of reintroduced with the excitement. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good card. But this week, obviously, we've got an even better card to talk about. And that's UFC London, baby. I absolutely love it when England, UFC come back to England. It's an absolute incredible scenes. I've got Sweet Caroline in my head already. I've had it in my head all week. The atmosphere is ridiculous. It always is ridiculous in the O2 Arena. And I can't wait to speak about it. Obviously, last time out, we were blessed with a UFC, obviously, pay-per-view. First pay-per-view in ages. We had Edwards, Usman. We had, Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev, but it doesn't matter what fights they bring to the UFC in London. What we do know is you're going to have atmosphere, and that atmosphere is going to be crazy. Fighting on this card, the likes of Tom Aspinall, Molly McCann, Nathaniel Wood, Paul Craig, Jai Herbert, Lerone Murphy, David Grant, Danny Roberts, Mark DKC, Mick Parkin making his UFC debut, Pani Kienzed, an adopted Englishwoman. She has fought at UFC London so many times. Chris Duncan, Shauna Bannon making her UFC debut. Man, oh man, stacked with UK talent, UK and Irish talent. I'm excited. I can't wait for it. And we'll start right at the top. And that is Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. Aspinall making his return back from after that gruesome injury versus Curtis Blades. His knee goes. It's the end of the fight. Terrible stuff, terrible scenes. But he's back now against Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura has been around for a very long time. He's fought some of the best in the division. 11-6 inside the UFC. As of late, he's beat Romanov. Took Romanov's undefeated record away from him. Beat Ivanov, in his last bout. The only fight he's lost in recent years was against Volkov, and that was the decision. A big, tall, lanky guy who kept him at range and striked him. Before that, obviously, he lost to Augusta Sakai, Shimul Durhumov back in the day in 2019. Derek Lewis, Mauricio Werdum, but he's gone on quite a tear recently, as I talked about. Only lost being to Volkov, and obviously gone 2 back-to-back wins since then. But now he takes on the surgeon Tom Aspinall, looking to kind of reintroduce himself, because obviously the injury and that took away from his shine a little bit. But this one is a big deal for Tom Aspinall and a big deal for the UK fans. I'm picking Tom Aspinall to win. I mean, how can I not? But when I'm looking at this stylistically as well, and technically, I do believe Tom Aspinall has the better striking, and I do believe Tom Aspinall has the better grappling. I can just see Tom Aspinall having success and being the more dominant wherever this fight goes. I believe Tom Aspinall can submit Marcin Tybura, and I can also believe that Tom Aspinall can knock Tybura out as well.
Yeah, I pretty much guarantee Tom Aspinall will get a finish in this fight in round 1 or 2. I believe he is better everywhere than Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura is a balanced fighter. He's got a good wrestling game to use against these explosive strikers, but that's not going to work against Tom Aspinall. He's got a 100% takedown defense. No fighter in UFC history got their first 5 wins quicker than Tom Aspinall. He has very quick hands, and I believe that'll be too much for Marcin Tybura, who has been knocked out in the past by Shamil Abdurrahimov and Augusto Sakai. I believe Tom Aspinall is better strikers than those two guys. I think he's going to knock him out in round 2. If he wants to, he can take down Marcin Tybura and submit him using his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I think he's going to elect to box out there, and I think he's going to look excellent out there. He looks to be in the best shape of his life. He's only a year removed from the injury, and I think he's going to look excellent out there. I think this is an obvious showcase spot for him.
Completely agree. The UFC fans are going to go wild. You're going to hear Tommy Aspinall shouting in the stands. Emphatic fans that we have here in England and the UK, obviously. They always go wild. I'd love to see the UFC go back to Dublin one day. Maybe it'll happen. It's a market that, they haven't been Dublin since, 2014? Ridiculous. Ludicrous. Ireland have some of the best fans in MMA and some combat sports. Is ridiculous. But yeah, I completely agree. Tom Aspinall was going to get the job done. And we talked about the co-main event. Molly McCann versus Georgia Storyenko. To be honest, we talked about Tom Aspinall having a bit of a fight to make him look good. This one is pretty much a copy and paste, but for women's. No disrespect to Georgia Storyenko, but I just don't see a way she wins this fight. Molly McCann, way too active on her hands. The only way I see Georgia still win this fight, she takes Molly McCann down and holds her down, and she gets submitted, which we have seen in the past. There was a certain redhead in Gillian Robertson that submitted Molly McCann. So, Oscar, the question is that out of possibility for Georgia Storyenko to submit Molly McCann? Is that a possibility? How highly would you rate for that to happen?
I would say that happens 2 out of 10 times, and that's the only way we see Julia Storyenko win. She only wins via armbar in the first round. Outside of that, we're going to see Molly McCann being the much quicker striker and looking awesome out there. I think she might even get a finish here. Storyenko, she had that hiccup on the scale at bantamweight. She did make the weight, though. But moving down, I think she's going to be more depleted, and she's going to be dealing with the quicker striker.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not too sure of the decision to move down. I think that's a bit ludicrous and a bit dangerous. I don't know how the UFC have approved that. Ugly scenes when she tried to make 135 pounds, collapsing on the scales, falling back and hitting her head. Oh, my man. 125 pounds, 10 more pounds she has to cut. And she was doing that 135 pounds. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. Anyway, we'll move on. Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Fili. This is going to be a banger. This is going to be a barn burner. Since Nathaniel Wood has moved up to 145 pounds. He has looked fantastic. Obviously beating Charles Rosa, and obviously in his last fight beating Charles Jourdain, which is a fantastic win. Obviously Charles Jourdain getting the best win, or one of the best wins in his career in his last bout versus Kron Gracie. Yeah, well, he looked good. One of his best performances, but Con Gracie didn't really bring much to the table. But now he's got a big fight versus Ricardo Ramos. But yeah, Nathaniel Wood has looked really good since stepping up to 145 pounds. And the main reason for him to step up to 145 pounds is so he could be more active. He could fight a lot more and get these quick turnarounds. But it's almost been a year since we last saw him. I know he was meant to fight Lerone Murphy at the UFC London pay-per-view, but ultimately got a gashed knee. That would have been a ridiculous fight. That would have been absolutely amazing. Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood. We will talk about Lerone Murphy. I would say Lerone Murphy is one of the best prospects that we have in England, coming out of England. He's ridiculous. Everywhere where the fight goes, I feel like he can shine. But this one, I feel like versus Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Fili, I feel like another fight. I see Wood can dominate. On the feet, obviously we know how sharp Wood is. He's ridiculous. Andre Fili got knocked out against Jonathan Brito last few fights ago. I'm not saying that Wood could do the same, but I just see Wood absolutely touching him up. He's so consistent. He's so active. He's so diverse with striking. His calf kicks are ridiculously really, really good. Powerful. I feel like this is another fight. The UFC know what they're doing. They want the English crowd to be excited, rowdy, and this is how they do it. They get matchups where the Englishman or the Englishwoman is favoured, and this one I see Wood being favoured. But Andre Fili is no pushover. He's been around in the game for a long time.
Andre Fili is a good all-around fighter, but it's very clear that he's not a top-level fighter. And I think that Nathaniel Wood has the potential to be a top 10 fighter. I know he's coming up from bantamweight, but that wasn't much of an issue when he took on Charles Jourdain, who's the real deal at featherweight. I think Nathaniel Wood will have a higher output in this fight on the feet, and that's what's going to win him the fight. He's also fighting a guy in Andre Fili who's a little older than him. I think he's going to be quicker than Andre Fili. And in terms of wrestling, I'm not entirely sure who has the advantage there, but I do like Nathaniel Wood's ability to hop on submissions if the opportunity presents itself. So I think Nathaniel Wood wins a unanimous decision in this fight. I also got really damn good leg kicks, and I think that's going to give problems to Andre Fili.
Absolutely agree. Looking forward to it. We'll move on to the next fight. 185 pounds, middleweight. Paul Craig making his debut at 185 pounds. This is a fantastic move for Paul Craig. He was explaining why he was making his move down to middleweight, and it made a lot of sense. He says, when you look at me, you don't look at a man that strikes fear. He said he had skinny muscles. He can't really bench that well. He's skinny. He said, if you look at me, and that's a man who can run 100 meters quick. It made me laugh because the way his takes are so funny and so accurate. It made a lot of sense. He was never really muscly. He was just skinny, lean, and in shape, basically. And the move to 185 pounds, I believe, is a good one. We're going to see how the how the cut goes this week. But yeah, although he's looking across Andre Muniz, who I rate very, very highly. And if you look at Paul Craig, his ways to win, obviously, it's the grappling department. Other than that, there isn't many ways for Paul Craig to win. And on that same podcast, he said that he wants to showcase his boxing, but I just don't think it happens. I really like Andre Muniz in this fight. I think he's a fantastic prospect. Submitting Jacare Souza, none other than Jacare Souza, should I add. I really rate Andre Muniz. I think he's going to get a job done against Paul Craig, which is quite unfortunate for me.
I think this is a really bad matchup for Paul Craig. Tell me when the last time it's worked out for an older guy moving down a weight class. When a guy gets older and he moves down tends to not work. Jose Aldo, the Hall of Famer, is an outlier. I think Andre Andre Muniz here is gonna have the ability to go to the ground with Paul Craig and not get caught in a submission. Um, and if he wants to, he can just ride out on top. But people forget Paul Craig himself has been submitted before on the ground by Jimmy Crute. I think Jimmy Crute is not as good as Andre Muniz on the ground. Andre Muniz, he retired Jacare, broke his arm. I think we're gonna look at a finish here. Either way, I think on the feet, Andre Muniz is better than Paul Craig, and he can win that way too. But ultimately, I'm gonna say second round submission for Andre Muniz here. Paul Craig is always going to be submission over position, and it's going to cost him.
Absolutely agree. Unfortunately, obviously, I'd love to see Paul Craig getting it done in his debut at 185 pounds. He's entertaining, but you can't write this man off. He's beat some of two of the best fighters at light heavyweight in Magomed Ankalaev and Jamal Hill. Submitted them both. Ridiculous.
Former
Ludicrous.
champion Jamal Hill now,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's crazy. You never know what you're going to get from Paul Craig. Hopefully, he gets the submission victory. But it's a tough matchup. If he does get the submission victory, my God, is that a statement? Is that a statement for real? Next one, Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam. Jai Herbert, obviously entertaining as ever. Few fights ago, if you passed your mind, rewind it when he fought Ilia Topuria. My gosh, this was almost the man to finish Ilia Topuria. Almost the man to knock him out of undefeated ranks. Almost the man to stop the hype train, to stop everything. Jai Herbert was a few punches, maybe a few minutes away from making it happen. But Ilia Topuria showed how good he is. And obviously how he just gritted in and got the job done, knocking him out in that second round. Jai Herbert has shown good skills in that first round. But when I feel like when he gets to that second and third round, we see him slow down a little bit, get caught a little bit more, and that's what we saw against Ilia Topuria. But he's bounced back against Carl Nelson, got a decision victory, and last fight at UFC London pay-per-view, Edwards versus Usman 3, he fought Ludovic Klein, and I thought Ludovic Klein was going to knock him out. It was a tough matchup. I kind of like Ludovic Klein, the way he's, how he, immersed himself into the UFC fans with that uppercut of Shane Young. But now he got the draw. Not necessarily a popular decision, but now he's facing Fares Ziam. This one could be a tough fight for him. But I'm picking Jai. I'm backing Jai. I'm backing Team Renegade. I think he's going to get it done. I'm not too sure how. I don't really see Jai Herbert finishing him, but made a decision victory. But then again, after that second and third round, my confidence really goes down.
I think this is a very competitive fight. Fares Ziam showed that his grappling has improved in his last fight against Michael Black. He got 3 takedowns there and was able to keep top position. Outside of that, he's got a good style, pop shotting from the outside. He's talented, and so is Jai Herbert. But the concern for me with Jai Herbert is he's been knocked out multiple times, and the durability might not hold up. But either way, I do think he's got more pop in his punches, and he's a little more aggressive than Fares Ziam, and that's why I'm gonna pick him to win this fight. I don't think Fares Ziam can take down Jai Herbert as easily as he did with Michael Black, but I think this is going to be a close one, and I think that the hometown advantage is very much a real thing when the UFC is in London. So I think we'll get it done.
Yeah, absolutely agree. We'll move on to the next fight. Moving down the card slowly. Lerone Murphy, as I talked about, against Josh Culibao. Josh Culibao was in a wild fight, then had a break off, and then came back to MMA action last year. He had an absolutely fantastic fight against Jen Turner back in the day. Had a fantastic fight against Charles Jourdain. Split decision loss. Got knocked down twice and pulled it back or something. That was such a wild fight. It was ridiculous. And then these last two fights, he's beat Song Woo Choi and Mercer Bakadara and gotten that rear naked choke. Lerone Murphy, as I talked about earlier, is one of the brightest, one of the best, one of the most technically skilled athletes that we have coming out of the UK. If he fought Daniel Wood, damn, that could have been a bad night for either. I don't want to say too much, but I just see Lerone Murphy being a fantastic prospect. The way he starched Makwani Murakami after seemingly having a tough first round. Gabriel Santos in his last fight, split decision. He was fighting a 10-0 Brazilian coming into that one. He got the job done. Gabriel Santos has gone on to lose against David Amana, getting that, an uppercut loss, getting knocked out. But I rate Lerone Murphy very high. When he's on his game, when he's flowing, when he's just on his prime A form, I just feel like he can go to the top, at least top 10 in the world. And I don't see Lerone Murphy slowing down to Josh Kudabal this weekend. I think he's going to get the job done. His striking is also very clean. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think this will take place mostly on the feet. Both guys love to kickbox. Lerone Murphy has shown the ability to take guys down if he needs to. And I think that may be smart against Josh Kobal, against Shaila Nordebeka. He got controlled for a good portion of that fight. I do think that the power is on the Lerone Murphy side. He's also undefeated, so he's got that confidence going for him. I hope he ups the volume a little more in this fight. And I think against Josh Kudabal, this could be fight of the night because Josh Kudabal, he's only in bangers, man. That fight with Doohoo Choi back in Singapore last year, that was a really awesome fight. And he's coming off the submission over Mosik Pakistan this year. He definitely will be able to do that against Lerone Murphy, who I think will win by unanimous decision.
Absolutely agree. We're moving to the next one. Davy Grant, big Davy Grant, getting another showcase here at UFC London. I've just kind of lost it here. Here we are. 135 pounds versus Daniel Marcos. I'm going to say it plain and simple. I really rate Davy Grant. I think he's a really good fighter. If you look at his last bout, getting that that submission over Rafael Senzao, I think Davy Grant has got a lot to offer in these fights. He's on 2-fight winning streak, beating Louis Smoker, which one I don't really rate that high. I think Louis Smoker is obviously clearly not UFC caliber. But Rafael Assunção, yes, he was slowing down. He's old. But I really rate that win. A fantastic win. Inverted triangle choke. I think Davy Grant has a lot to offer in this fight. In recent years, his only last 2 losses have been to Adrian Yanez and Marlon Chito Vera. So if you look across on the other side and you see a 14-0 undefeated fighter in your way. But I just think Dangerous Davy Grant is going to get the job done. He has shown some power in his hands against Jonathan Martinez, knocking him out with that left hook. Obviously, Smoker as well. That was ground and pound. He's a finisher, is Davy Grant. This one, I'm picking Davy Grant. I'm going to back him. He's from Bishop Auckland, which is not too far away from me. So he's a legend. I'm excited to see how he gets it done, but I feel like he's very underrated. I feel like he can really go out there and upset the odds against a 14-0 Peru striker.
This is a very exciting fight. Another potential fight of the night. I think this is going to be competitive all the way through. I don't expect to see any grappling from these two. They're going to be swinging in the pocket as a typical Davy Grant fight ends up being. Davy Grant has shown that he's got legit knockout power. He used to be more known as a submission guy, but this time in these last several fights, he's been really putting leather on these guys. Even in these losses, he actually won the first round against Marlon Chito Vera. Against Adrian Yanez, that was a split decision. That was a close fight. The Sensao win was awesome. So he was losing that fight quite clearly, and then the Sensao was he was fouled in some way, and then they stand up and Sensao gets caught in that inverted triangle, and he gets put to sleep. Maybe the best submission of this year. Davy Grant, I think, will probably win this fight because of his experience. I'm not 100% sold on Daniel Marcos yet. His last fight was against Simon Oliveira, who loves to throw spinning back fists for no reason. And before that, he beat Brandon Lewis, who's not all that high level. So yes, Davy Grant has beaten some good competition. So I think Davy Grant probably wins a split decision here, but Marcos definitely has a shot at winning this one. Lenny is currently muted right now. So let me move on to the next fight.
I forgot that I was muted. Thank you very much. I was blowing my nose. I was trying to be respectful, but yeah, the first 8 fights of the evening, we got some really good ones. Brian Barberena, this low on a card. Well, I don't know the official bout order, but this is ridiculous. You know, just look at the prelims here. Some ridiculous fights. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we'll quickly go over these one. We've got about 9 minutes left until we let them go. Mark DK versus Joe Alvarez. I really rate Joe Alvarez, to be honest. I think his grappling is very slick as well. And that's where we've seen Mark DK try and take the fight in recent fights. Mick Parkin versus Jamal Pogs. Mick Parkin, ultimately, I'm going with. I have a lot of belief. I have a lot of but I have a lot of belief that Mick Parkin goes to the top of the division. He is very active, very quick with his hands, and for a heavyweight, training with Tom Aspinall as well. So he's got a good eyes on Tom Aspinall. Barbara Brainer versus Makhmud Muradov. Barbara Brainer has had a fantastic run of late, but I think it ends against Muradov. Kenton Vieira versus Pani Gazed. If they are this low, number 5, number 6 ranked in the world, that's ridiculous. I'm going with Kenton Vieira nonetheless. I think she gets it done. Chris Duncan, obviously, I got to back my boy, Chris Duncan, getting that knockout on the Contender Series, getting the win against Omar Moraes, but now he comes up against a 7-0 Israeli, Yanil Ashmush. This one's going to be a close one, but Chris Duncan, I'm backing him. Shauna Bannon, I've heard a lot about her in Invicta. She's made waves outside the UFC. This is her big test. The UFC are putting a lot of belief in her. A lot to come up and back up. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Shauna coming into this one. The first Irish woman, I believe, since I forgot her name, something Daly. Her name slipped my head, but the first Irish woman fighting inside the UFC since 2017. A lot of pressure, a lot to kind of have on your shoulders, and obviously the first fight of the year, and Joao Filo versus Janelle Baziz. This one, to be honest, I don't know too much about, and I'll let Oscar talk about the first 8 fights of the evening.
Yeah, starting with Danny Roberts versus Johnny Parsons. I think this is going to be a very fun one. Johnny Parsons had a war against Solomon Renfro on the Contender Series, and I thought he lost that fight. Uh, I don't think Solomon Renfro is UFC caliber, quite honestly. Um, I'm not too sure about Johnny Parsons. He looks a little undersized to me at welterweight, and to me, it doesn't appear like he's got much of an advanced ground game, and he has not competed since that Renfro fight because he was having connection issues. So to me, that's concerning, and that may spell doom for him against Daniel Roberts, who's stuck around the UFC a long time now. Sure, he's going to lose to some of these dangerous knockout artists, but I don't think Johnny Parsons is as high level as guys like Trinaldo and Jack Della Maddalena. So I think Daniel Roberts should comfortably win a unanimous decision in that fight with his superior boxing. And then move on to Mark Casey versus Joel Alvarez. I'm very excited to see Joel Alvarez back after his loss to Arman Sarukian. Arman Sarukian is a killer. Joel Alvarez was unable to do much after he got a big cut opened on him. But prior to that, he showed a lot of promise, finishing multiple guys off of his back with his tremendous jiu-jitsu. But against Thiago Moises, that was the coming out party. Uh, he's a really good striker. And he butchered him on the feet and got a standing TKO. He's 6'3" for lightweight, which is really big. He's got a big reach on him. We've seen Marcia Casey get caught in submission before by Dan Hooker and Rafael Alves. I think we're going to see Joel Alvarez snatch up a submission. Uh, Marcia Casey, he's shown the ability to out-grapple these one-dimensional strikers. He's not fighting a one-dimensional guy. I think he gets caught in a submission and shouldn't stay on the feet. It's not it's not completely on the Casey side either. As I said, Joel Alvarez is very dangerous too, striking. So I'm picking Joel Alvarez second round submission. And then Mick Parkin versus Jamal Pogues. I love that fight for Mick Parkin. Parkin is one of the training partners for Tom Aspinall. And Jamal Pogues, I think the guy's not a real heavyweight. I think he should be moving down to light heavyweight. He was in a close fight with Josh Parisian, who I think is quite low level. So I think Mick Parkin should get a second round TKO there. And then Makhamed Murdoch versus Brian Barberena. Brian Barberena is not a real middleweight. He's Makhamed Murdoch got knocked out against the likes of Randy Brown before. The durability is not as great as it once was. Obviously, he's been in multiple wars. He was really getting touched up by Robbie Lawler before he got the knockout himself there. I think the Jason Witt to watch multiple times. Third round knockout for to be signed by Floyd Mayweather in MMA. We'll move on to Ketlin Bier versus Penny Kianzad. That right there is going to be a very close competitive striking battle there. Ketlin Bier does have the better grappling, like the box, and she's beaten Holly Holm and Misha Tate in her last couple of fights, two former champions. But she did come up short against Raquel Pennington there, and because her volume was not enough. So if her volume's not enough, she's going to lose to Penny Kianzad. But otherwise, I do think she has the better skill set than Penny Kianzad there, and I do think that she might end up fighting Maya Bueno Silva next. And after that, we have Chris Duncan versus Yanel Ashmoose. I think somebody might be going to sleep here. These guys always hunt for that knockout. Yanel Ashmoose shocked the world, knocking out the undefeated Sam Patterson. And Chris Duncan, he's shown to be a little smarter than he was in this Contender Series fight against Slava Klaus, where he got knocked out. I think he's going to be looking to wrestle in this fight. And Yanel Ashmoose is not a bad grappler, but Chris Duncan is always getting in reps at American top teams with the likes of Dustin Poirier and Grant Dawson. So I think he's going to be well prepared, and I think he wins a unanimous decision in that fight. And we got Bruno Brazil versus Sean O'Bannon. This one's very hard to pick. They've not really had too much experience with high level competition, but I will buy that hype on Sean O'Bannon. I think with Bruno Brazil coming off a knockout loss against Denise Gomes, she might be a little timid, and I've liked what I've seen from Sean O'Bannon so far with the striking. And the first fight night is Jafel Filio versus Daniel Perez, the Spaniard. I think Filio showed he had a lot of promise by almost submitting Muhammad Makayev earlier this year. I think on the feet, he's also very dangerous as well. And Daniel Perez was unable to win his final Contender Series against Carlos Hernandez. I don't rate Carlos Hernandez super high, honestly. So I think Filio probably gets the submission here. Yeah, as I said, this fight card is full of promising talent from the European MMA scene. And I do think that for the most part, we're going to have a ton of finishes featuring the hometown folks. So I really think this is going to be a memorable card that's going to fly by.
I absolutely agree. I can't wait to hear the Tommy Aspinall chants in the fans, in the stadium. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. You talked about the talent: Shana Bannon, Chris Duncan, Panny Kinzed, all these European talent: Mick Parkin, Mark Diakeshe, Danny Roberts, Davy Grant, Lauren Murphy, Jai Herbert, Paul Craig, Nathaniel Wood, Molly McCann, Tom Aspinall. When the UFC comes to London, when it comes to England, when it comes to wherever European, they stack it out. They make it absolutely tremendous for the home fans. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be ridiculous. The atmosphere inside the O2 Arena is going to be impeccable. We just got to say thank you to the UFC for coming back to the O2 Arena twice in 1 year. It's good. We over here, the UK fans are passionate. They're vocal. And we love to watch some fights with a little bit of beer down in our belly. So it's good. It works well. So Tommy Aspinall in the main event against Master Tybura. I fully expect Tommy Aspinall to go out there and get the knockout. Molly McCann, I fully expect Molly McCann to go out there and look dominant. The only way she loses this fight, she gets caught in an armbar against John Stoyanko, who is a judo world champion. As we have Oscar Silva in the comment section. Let's fucking go, he says.
Yep, let's go. And
Yeah.
make sure to enjoy the fights, guys. I know I will. It's an early start time over here in the US. Once the fights are over at around 5 p.m.
Looking forward to it. An early one as well for us European fans. That is always good. That always feels good inside the soul, inside the body. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, like Oscar said, make sure you enjoy the fights this weekend. Thank you very much. A very good bye from me and Oscar. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you catch it on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure to catch it on YouTube as well. Give it a like, give it a view, give it a thumbs up, whatever you want. Give it a comment, whatever you do. Put your predictions in the chat if you're on YouTube. If you're on Apple Podcasts, maybe send us your predictions on Instagram. So that'll work. Oscar, have you enjoyed the show? Are you looking forward to the fights? And the last sending off for the fans, please.
I'm very much looking forward to the fights. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at March Silva MMA Show. Also, you can rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Helps out with people discovering the show. And make sure to tune in next week because it might be our best episode yet. We have UFC 291 Poirier versus KG2 for the BMF title to preview from Salt Lake City, Utah. Jorge Masvidal said he's putting the belt around the waist of the winner. I cannot wait. That card is insane.
Woo! See you later, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hyped. I can't wait. Thank you very much. A very goodbye. Oscar, thank you very much for joining me. And I'll catch you next week.